Well, hello, I'm 𝐂𝐫𝐸. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to cover four main topics involving CNC plasma cutting, especially about the Arcdroid plasma cutter. First off, we're going to cover a very simple DIY downdraft table to remove smoke and sparks from the air. Keeps your shop cleaner and your lungs healthier. Next, we're going to cover some tips and tricks about the Arcdroid plasma cutter itself, setting it up with something like this and just making it work really well for you. And another thing we're going to cover is actually making sure you have nice, clean, dry air on a budget, because there's a lot of expensive air dryers out there. That will make your consumables last far longer. Whether you're running a Arcdroid or just a plasma cutter in general, it's a way to go. And finally, we'll jump down to the plasma cutter I'm using on here. It's probably the best, most affordable plug-and-play CNC plasma capable I've used on the market. So stick around, enjoy the video. So nothing super scientific about this. I'm just making some marks on this square tubing every 2 inches. This is 1/8 inch wall, I think 1.5 inch square tubing. Just what I had sitting around. It made sense to use what I had. And just cutting these slats in here with a metal cutting chop saw. This is an Evolution saw. If you're interested in any tools from Evolution, I got a promo code down below that will save you 5% on your order. So check that out if you're interested in them. So yeah, we're making these cuts in here, and that's where the slats are going to drop in eventually. Had some scrap angle iron here. We're just going to lay this out. This is what the actual Arcdroid is going to sit on. So we're going to cut that next. So now that we got those angle iron pieces cut, we're going to go over and clean up the edges. And actually, they look like they're just clean metal, but it's actually silver paint and salvage stuff. So I want to clean it off. There's a saying, if it's worth welding, it's worth cleaning first. So deburring these tubes on this cheapo Harbor Freight belt sander. Nothing fancy, but hey, it works for me. Then we're going to jump over to the welding table. This is a pretty cool fitment table I got about 3 years ago. This is from Langmuir Systems. There's a link below to their website. I'm just using some simple 5/8 bolts I got at the hardware store. You can drop them in and make sure everything's nice and square with that. And next off, I built these on my lathe quite a few years ago for the table. They're little mini jack screws that just turn down nut there on a bolt. And you can adjust them up or down for setting heights of certain things like this. So not only is it square, it's also level. And jumping over to the Vulcan here, I got the Omni Pro. I had this welder years ago, and then I did some reviews on this and the Titanium 200. And after I ran a bunch of different welders for a while, I decided to come back. I bought this thing on last year on a Black Friday sale, and I just really like the way the Vulcan's laid out. The auto set is pretty nice. You can get in there as manual settings, spool gun ready. It's just a nice quality welder, so I decided to jump back to it again and go for that. So here I'm just measuring out some holes, getting ready to start drilling and tapping here using a little center punch. These are going to be for helping level the Arcdroid later on. Reason I'm not giving any exact measurements on any of this stuff, it's just a simple idea of what you can do with some scrap metal for a plasma cutting table downdraft. I decided to adapt this stuff to a Costco style pallet racking that I had. I already had it existing, so I thought, well, I want to make a little welding station in my back room, something that I can actually heat easier in the winter for doing small projects. And I had some racking sitting around, so I'm building this downdraft table to work with that racking. So you can take this basic idea and apply it to any bench or any system you have around your place. That's why I'm not including exact measurements. So there's that pallet racking right there. I'm going to have this downdraft table set up once I get this mounted. And future project, I'm going to put a little welding table on the other side of the pallet racking. It's simple, and it's kind of nice to work with something pre-existing like this. So I was just going to use some flat bar, but I didn't actually have a bunch of it in stock. So I went over to a local fabrication shop. I know the owner, and I was going to buy some, 1.5 inch or 2 inch flat bar from him. And he actually didn't have any. He's like, oh, I just mostly shear stuff whenever I need anything. So he grabbed a scrap of metal and sheared this off for me. I think I gave him 15 or 20 bucks and out the door. And I got a few extras. They're all reversible. So once they wear out, you can flip them over. Now I'm getting ready to set the Arcdroid on here and kind of work on leveling it. Before I got the hardware that I needed to run to the hardware store for it. I just used these before, especially when I was setting up at my work. Just bent over some of this plumber's metal tape style and used them as kind of adjustable shims that are wedges, and you can slide them in and out, and it's a pretty simple way to level the table. Did this until I got a chance to run to the hardware store. Later on I got all the hardware, and I'll show you guys how I set it up for leveling it properly. Now I'm just zeroing out the Arcdroid, and I got a sheet of metal on top of the welding table. This is pretty crucial for getting your Arcdroid to cut really well. I'm bringing the stylus down so it's just about an 1/8 inch or 1/16 inch off the table, checking it, running over it smoothly and where it's binding on the table. And if there's a corner or something in binding, then you're going to bring up the Arcdroid a little bit and re-level it and check and make sure that stylus does not drag. So over here in this section of the table, it rolls smooth. Right here it starts hitting, so we got to bring up that corner some more. Now we got the whole bed leveled out really well after doing a few adjustments like that, and gonna start cutting some stuff to hang the computer next on the side. So early on the build, I drilled and tapped the main mounts on here. I ran a piece of bolt, or a little 1/4-20 bolt, up through the bottom and tightened it up really nice, and then I ran a nut down below and a washer and a lock nut up top here, and this way you can raise and lower to adjust it to your liking, because having your torch move across the piece completely flat and the same height is key to getting good cuts and key to keeping your consumables from burning out, because as soon as that consumable grounds out on your workpiece when it's cutting, you're going to start burning through that consumable. You're just going to start throwing them away. So leveling up your CNC to the bed of your table is crucial for good cuts. I'm using my Evolution circular saw. It's a metal cutting circular saw to cut this aluminum here. This is going to be the bottom of the downdraft table. After this, we're going to take it in and cut a perfect circle in the center with the Arcdroid. Kind of nice having the Arcdroid set up because you can actually use it to start building some of its table. Using the Arcdroid to cut a 4-inch circle in this aluminum for the downdraft table. Got a fan hooked up in here right now just to draw some of the fumes, but this is the only stuff I'm going to cut until I get the bottom plate on. Got a respirator as well. So let's make this cut. That was actually run that 30 amps on 120 volts as well. There we go, perfect 4-inch circle. So I got the downdraft table turned on here. This is a 4-inch duct running out here. It moves a lot of air. I have 4-inch aluminum tubing. This is just the stuff that you'd use in dryer tubing. It's aluminum. And it runs up to this little fan I got off of Amazon. It's about 10 inches across for that gray fan housing and another 2 inches for the power inlet. It's 120 volts. I think it's like 38 or 42 bucks, something like that. It moves a lot of air. Really simple little system. Yeah, I just put a little piece of aluminum across the bottom and capped it in. Used some of that aluminum foil tape around the edges just to make it more airtight and cut down on sparks dropping down and going in between the table. But really simple. These slats are reversible. You can take them, switch them out when they get cut through too much, or flip them over. Really simple. They just lift in and lift out. So pretty happy with the downdraft. So the beauty of having a CNC plasma table is you can just start cutting parts for it. Right here I'm actually cutting a little bracket for, I've already cut part of this to hold the computer. That's one part of it, bent on my brake, and I'm cutting some mount points for it next. It's nice. Once you have a plasma cutter, it's amazing. But once you have a CNC plasma cutter, it's a complete game changer. So there's the scrap of metal I used to cut all those parts out. And there's a little stand I made. Got it screwed down here and tack welded on the back with the little tabs. Put in my metal brake and bent this corner right here. Just got to put a little paint on it, so it should be pretty good. But I learned something interesting on the Arcdroid today if you're drawing. So I'm drawing a little tool tray to have back here to hold like a calipers, you know, tape measure, things like that. But if you don't like the location of something after you drew it, you can highlight it. Found an interesting little tip here. And you can actually hit the X or Y button, zoom in a little bit, and you can just jog it with the, see that? You can jog it with the dial, which is kind of neat. You can reposition without changing digit after digit. You can just move it around the screen until you find the location you're happy with, and then hit OK. Kind of a cool little feature. So that technique works with whole size, basically any parameter on here. So you just highlight it, go to Edit, Diameter. As long as it's highlighted, you can rotate the knob and change the diameter. Same as the XY points. Works with angle and all that kind of stuff. Pretty cool. So I'm running the Arcfony Cut53N Pro. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the video. There will be links below to Amazon for that as well. Right here, I'm just cutting it on 120 volts, keeping the amperage low around, I don't know, 22, 25, something like that. But just cutting out some more parts and pieces for this tool tray I'm actually working on, just because it's one of those nice things. If you're going to be working in a station a lot, might as well have a little location to hold all your tools. So that's what we're cutting out right now with it. So one thing to keep in mind, this is before I upgraded fans. I had an old squirrel cage fan that just wasn't moving enough smoke out through the bottom of the table. That's why I ended up upgrading to a much better fan from Amazon. So there's the basic tray design. There's where it came out. And there it is. Holds my calipers, needle nose for grabbing small hot parts. Got a Sharpie, tape measure. Also, if you got an Arcdroid or any CNC, keep these around, magnetic, and something you can pick up stuff out of the table if you need to. Works pretty good. So here's my air system. Really simple for cleaning and drying your air. This just comes from my compressor. Quick disconnect I have here. I have a close and open valve. I got kind of a bleed screw down here. So you open it up. That's so you can bleed out any air or any water that's in the system. And then this is the silica drying pellets right here that fit in here. And then my out comes from here, goes right into the back of my plasma cutter right here. And I got a regulator on the back right here, which comes with this plasma cutter. And this gives me pretty good dry air for, I would say I got this on sale for around 50. They might be 60 something off sale from Harbor Freight. I'll put a little description on the side of the video showing what I have. And when I'm done, I just close this and open this up to drain off any extra pressure in the system. Very simple. So this is a little indicator to tell you how much moisture is in it. This should be a dark deep blue, but I've been using it for 4 months now or so, and it's got kind of a purple hue to it. When it gets a lot of moisture in it, it'll turn almost a pink. And Harbor Freight doesn't sell any more of that stuff that I know of. So I went on Amazon and found 4 1-pound containers. I'll put a link to this stuff below in the Amazon list. This is probably gonna last me a few years because it's deep dark blue when you first get the stuff. And again, you can actually take this out of here. You can put it on like a thrift store baking sheet or something and put it on in your oven on really low temp, and you can dry this stuff out as well. So you can kind of reuse it. Just don't eat the stuff. It's not good for you. So this is the plug and play plasma cutter I was talking about. It's got kind of a silly name. It's called Arcfony. It's a Cut53N Pro dual voltage. And I've been really happy with this. The company sent it out to me about 5 months ago to try out, and it's worked flawlessly on my CNC Arcdroid here. Very simple machine. Got a nice digital readout. Like I said, it's plug and play. Comes with all the attachments to wire it up to your CNC. It's got a little flashing light CNC. So Goes up to 53 amps. I've been cutting around 25, 26 for thin sheet metal. It's got a regulator on the back you can adjust. It tells you your PSI digitally, and if you want to see what your PSI drops to when you're actually cutting, you can turn on the air. This works really well. Consumables are very affordable, comes with a pretty decent torch. I like the fact that it's got plug and play. I'll take you around to the back and show you the controls back there. But I've been using it for about 5 months now, and some of the video work you guys will see early on when I was cutting some stuff for this on the Arcdroid, I only had 120 volts back here in the shop. Since then I got an extension cord to run 240 out. I highly recommend running on 240, but as long as you keep it 25 amps or less, it will cut really well on 120 volts. Just make sure that when you're cutting, you have your breakers separated, so you have a separate one for your Arcdroid as your plasma, just in case you pop a breaker when you're cutting or anything. So I don't know if you can see, but there's some CNC ports right here to make this thing plug and play, which is definitely a helpful thing, so you don't have to take apart the box and be trying to wire into the trigger switch. It just comes with the cable. You hook it up and plug it into your CNC and it's ready to go. Well, hope you enjoyed my video. This is pretty simple, straightforward project to take on, and I know I've had a lot of CNC footage in the past in my videos. I've used the Langmuir Systems Crossfire Pro for many years now. I really like it. Only downside I find with that is I have to sit down with the computer up in my house and draw out my parts and pieces. So before I go into any more detail about the Arcdroid, I want to mention I still have my Langmuir Crossfire Pro table. I really like it. It's fantastic for drawing up big elaborate parts. It's got a bigger capacity. It's got torch height control. It's got a lot of nice features. It's got the capability to start a small side business with. That being said, I have to sit down in Fusion 360 up in my house and draw up my parts and pieces, and sometimes I don't want to spend over an hour drawing some stuff. You can import Fusion 360 files to the Arcdroid. I just don't use it that way. I like to just kind of run and gun with it, draw up a part real quick, whether it's cardboard parts or just straight up drawn on the computer screen. But I still have my Langmuir Systems. I still think it's a great table. I just have been using the Arcdroid a lot more lately for simple, smaller projects. And some point I'll do a comparison video comparing the two in case you're on the fence about getting a CNC. Both of these machines sell about the same price, but they have drastically different features. So stay tuned for that video. If you're interested in that video topic, please leave a comment down below so I can tell how many people want to see something like that, and if the video is worthwhile. One other thing to mention, I actually have a tutorial series on starting to draw with Fusion 360. I'll put a link to a playlist for that. And I have a few videos covering the Langmuir Systems tables, the original Crossfire and the Crossfire Pro. We'll put a link to that if you're interested. And of course, I'll have some more videos coming out on the Arcdroid. This fits me a little bit more my needs these days, kind of run and gun, just like, oh, I got an idea for a part. I can draw it up in here. It's maybe not as precise as drawing on the computer. You can draw parts on the computer as well and import them in here. I just don't tend to do that. I just get an idea for a simple bracket or something I need. I draw it up with the basic program you can do inside the little computer here on the touch screen, and it's usually good enough for me. So that's why I've been using the Arcdroid a lot more. I've had it at my work for quite a few months, cutting a bunch of parts for work, and just want to set up a simple system out here in this other part of the shop just to be able to make quick on-the-go parts for mocking up stuff and moving on. If I was going to do anything super elaborate or cut out large number of like parts for a kit and something that was going to nest a bunch of parts, I'd probably sit down and draw them up on the Fusion 360 and cut them out on the Crossfire Pro. But for all run and guns kind of stuff, if you're working on something, need a few brackets cut, this has definitely been a way to go. I've been really happy using this Arcdroid. I've had it for almost a year now, and they keep improving the software, adding a few new little features here and there. Now the software is fairly limiting compared to running something like on Fusion 360, which you can still draw with and import. I just don't like sitting down at the computer for an hour drawing up some parts to fiddle around with importing them, anything like that. I just like using the touchscreen and the software that's in here and cutting some basic parts on it. I do have an affiliate link, but unfortunately I have no promo codes to save you guys any money. So if you're interested in the Arcdroid, there's a link below. If you click on that, it doesn't cost you any more. It does help me out a little bit through every sale, so it is an affiliate link. but it makes it so I can make more videos like this and pay for products to build more tables, different things. And if you're interested in more content like this and you get an Arcdroid, I will be doing some more videos about software and as they upgrade software on here, how to get around on it. It's very simple, but the cool thing is you can learn it in a few hours and be drawn from there and be cutting parts on the go. So like I said, unfortunately, there's no promotional savings by using the affiliate link. It does help me out. And if you don't want to use that, that's fine. You can go right to their website. But it does help me out and pays for extra content because YouTube hasn't been paying much of these days. I think last few videos I've made 25% of the ad revenue. YouTube's been making 75%. So it's like a side hobby for me. So, all right, until next time, thanks for checking out the video. Take care. Bye.